is blazing so bright, calling the fight from the ancient lands. We stand from dawn to twilight, the empires rise and conquer. In the wild face of danger, carry on to the victory. You better take a deep breath, each stone it brings a bitter fight. Another chill may run down your spine, fear lurks beyond the edge of sight. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die, never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind, hold your weapons, try to fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary. Chaos, sharpen your knife, make way to find your destiny. Worship a man or a shrine, can both recall a scattered. In the wild town of wardrobes, tearing down all the enemies. You better capture the arcs, the carriers may bug you down. You set up for the swift that's right, sneaky Texas work as a best alive. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die, never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind, hold your weapons, try to fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary. Across the ancient lands, stories will be told. How you struggle, how you try to define the world. With a sacred name, you are the one chosen to start up the storm. Never give up till you die, never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind, hold your weapons, try to fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary.
Yo, what's going on? YouTube, welcome back to the Rise of Kingdoms Global Champions Grand Prix Week 5, Day 2. I am your host, Dirty Dan Gaming. I am joined today with my good buddy, Brian Koo. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Ben, good to be here. Let's get it on.
Absolutely. And just want to give a quick shout out to those who don't know. I just found out that Brian is kind of semi West Coast time. So can we please get some hype and some shout outs into the chat and appreciation for this man for waking up at 5:30 in the morning to come on and cast with me today. You are a true warrior, my friend. I really appreciate you being on today.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, listen, it's a grind. This is a grind getting up early, but the reason we do it is because this is very, very fun, right? Like casting Grand Prix matches, casting Osiris League matches. It's like a super fun thing in Rise of Kingdoms, and to be able to be one of the commentators to do it is just an honor and a privilege. So that's really what gets me up.
Yeah.
Also, to talk to you, of course.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Absolutely. and I feel that too. Yesterday, I woke up not feeling too well. And then as soon as me and Plauto got into the match, like all of that kind of like went away. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a super fun experience and really appreciate Lilith giving us this opportunity to take on this Grand Prix. And today, as we get into this Day 2, Brian and myself are going to be casting 21YL versus 466W. And for anyone who was watching yesterday, that 466W match was an absolute slugfest, going back and forth with 748W. Kind of like fooling us till the end of it. We thought it was going to go down to the wire. Then all of a sudden these guys throw up about 7K provision points right at the end, which has kind of been the tail of the tape a little bit in this Grand Prix. Brian, are you expecting anything in particular from this match? What are you looking out for?
I think we need to be expecting at least 6,000 gathering points from both of these Chinese teams. They follow the playbook, and I think in the case of 21YL, who I consider the favorite in this match, I would say are maybe the Chinese team that defines the style the most, where they are heavy mid, they are heavy gathering, and they play defense on the sides. Some of these Chinese teams, the teams that are in the upper bracket finals, they're a little bit more high flying. They try to do a lot of side work and do the mid and do gathering. 21YL is a little more conservative, more simple, but they are that textbook. We're going to win with gathering and we're going to win with mid. And, Dan, it has been dominant. Gathering has been dominant. In the match that I cast yesterday, 93T, they dominated the fighting. But because 489 outgathered them, 489 was only 500 points away from winning that match, and they could have made a couple different choices where they probably would have won the match. So gathering really is just super powerful. And so I think we're going to see plenty of it today.
Yeah, lots of gathering has kind of been the tail of the tape. And I do agree that 21YL kind of comes into this thing after last week losing to GY16, which is kind of maybe that, that top tier Chinese team. I've been hearing now, I think the community is starting to become a little bit split of GY16 and potentially 732A of being kind of top dog, but I think their loss last week to a very good GY16, and I had the pleasure of casting that match. I think it's all a blur at this point, to be honest.
I didn't cast it, so you must have, yeah.
Okay. But GY16 really brought it last week, and I think that was maybe a little bit of a wake-up call for 21YL, who is looking to take down 466W today. And it's going to be interesting to see if 466W is going to be able to kind of parlay that momentum that they had from that really, really good win yesterday from 748W to take out 21YL. And then go ahead, Brian.
And it's going to be a tougher challenge, I think, today for 466W. 748 definitely made some mistakes yesterday with their skill cast and stuff like that. 21YL is a much more daunting opponent here. And I think it's also worth noting that the stakes are higher in this match. The teams that win today, they will be a top 4 team in this year's Grand Prix. That means that their prizes are going to be a little bit higher. The teams yesterday were guaranteed to have won a bag of flux scripts worth $385. Excuse me, a horde of flux scripts. But today, if you win, you get an extra bag of flux scripts. So the teams that do win today, they're going to get about $200 more for each player. The stakes of this match is pretty high, and maybe 748 was a little bit sloppy yesterday, but I'm pretty sure 21YL is going to be coming in real tight with their play in this match.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one to see as we're going to kind of jump into this match. And be sure, chat, to check out the second stream that we're going to have today on the official Rise of Kingdoms channel, 466S, the other 466 sister team, facing off against 93T, who is going to be the only international team left in this Grand Prix tournament as we get into the match now. Top side, we have 21YL in the blue. Bottom side, we have 466W in the red. And are we looking for anything in particular on these openings, Brian? Yeah, I noticed that last week. Actually, now it's kind of coming back to me a little bit that the stocking up skill seemed a little bit off kilter to me, and I'm not sure I'm not sure if, I think Brian, we might be having a little bit of technical difficulties on the mic end, so I'm gonna try and fix that. So it is gonna be interesting to see. I think the stocking up play was a little bit interesting for sure. And go ahead, Bri, give me one more. Testing. I think we might have you back now.
All right.
There we go. Chat, do we got Brian back? Sorry about that.
We're in the pipe, 5x5.
Yeah. It would not be a traditional stream with Dirty Dan on it if there was not some technical difficulties. It seems even if I'm on the other side, if I'm not hosting, even if I'm with Plato, something happens. So I might have the I might be cursed on that end. But yeah, speaking to that stocking up again, I don't know if you have any more insights, but yeah, it seemed a little bit late last week. I'm not sure. I know that you can kind of generate more than that 10 points worth, but it just seemed really interesting. And I think the timing was a little bit off as these gates will open now. We see 466W open with that energetic, but yeah, I don't know if you had any more further insights on the stocking up play, because I was trying to dissect it myself last week and I couldn't really figure it out.
So, I mean, you know, I think they probably were fine with bringing their gatherers in on time. The issue is, like, for the first arc, you already have 10 points, so it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it should work. It's a strategy that can work. Like, you just bring your gatherers back. You cast a couple of skills. Then you bring your gatherers back. That instantly refreshes the bar, so you're back to having 10 skill points. And then you can cast another, set of skills that means you're using more than 10 skill points in the mid-fight. I've seen it go well for 21YL. There was one mid-fight, I think, in their first match of the tournament where they had used 15 points for a mid-fight.
Oh my gosh.
So... yeah, but the thing is, like, you have to use those skill points ahead of time, and I think sometimes when it's a held mid, a held arc, you end up just like wanting to use some other skills instead on the sides, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can mistime it. Like, maybe they cast stocking up too early, and then GY16 held the arc so long that it had worn out by the time the mid fight happened.
I think that was somewhat of, and again, kind of slowly coming back to me after all these matches, everything's kind of becoming a blur, but yeah, I think that may have been the call. I think they did the stocking up a little bit too early. And as we kind of speak on stocking up, you can see 21YL going right out of the gates and starting to get some provisioners going here, which traditionally what we see is usually around after that first mid arc fight or kind of heading into that rotation, we'll start to see provisioners popping up. But I think that speaks to the strategy of 21YL and that skill usage of energetic that they like to use. And there you go, energetic being used from 21YL as these teams are starting to ramp up for their first opening fights on these structures.
Yeah, definitely. Very light effort on the bottom side by the red team, 466W, or on the outside lane there. They're very, very light on the outside lane at the moment. But looking pretty standard.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny in yesterday's match that 748, they countered the Chinese sentry outside their gates.
Yeah.
They dropped that sentry like just to destroy the enemy sentry. Decent value, I would say. Okay value for a sentry.
Yeah, and then as we see kind of here again, some of those counter sentry plays come in, and again, all these plays really add up. You really want to get the momentum going in your favor. And yeah, it looks like a pretty standard opening here, kind of going a little bit balanced for both sides. Just trying, I think, again, with the way that these matches are going now, and in these lower brackets, win or go home, I think teams are really kind of sticking to their guns here and sticking to their strengths, and really kind of maybe trying to find that reach per se. Like if you're those fighters who try to find their reach and try to gauge that striking distance, and we've been seeing a lot of that a little bit, at least to open these matches. But then once the fighting does ensue, very similarly to yesterday with 466W and 748W, it was just utter chaos for the entire match. So it'll be interesting to see as we get our first murder balls going on that bottom side desert altar. 466W clashing with 21YL. And
Yep.
just want to see anything else. Yep, all murder balls are engaging. You can see up here, nice kind of top side push from 466W as well, and even on the bottom side too, on this outside lane.
Yeah, very aggressive by 466W here off the bat, and that is going to be one of their win conditions here, because 21YL is very strong at gathering, and they're strong at defense, right? They're going to just play a lot of defense, and if it ends up being a close match, part of what 466W can potentially do is be aggressive, have success on the aggressive end, and win the occupation game that way. 21YL just winning the structure game is not part of their win condition. Although if they lose that first arc, it might very quickly become part of it.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of a little bit opposite tail there as 21YL, a very clean wipe on that bottom side desert altar to put some pressure on 466W. They are going to swap here, so they're going to take the swap and lose their own sky altar. Meanwhile, on the top side, looks like they had a successful defense on that home desert altar, and 466W maintaining their sky altar. So it looks like the playing field's going to be relatively even. That was a pretty impressive wipe down here from 21YL, but maybe attributed to having a little bit more troops, and they were able to sneak in a troop on that bottom side sky altar, on their home sky altar, I should say. But 466W with a nice response and the proper open field presence to clear that out and hold that as these teams fight for first occupation scores.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the key building here. That sky altar on the bottom side. You know, 466W does have it now. They have a bit of field. They're staying at the building. They're going to try to hold this building for 2.5 minutes. That's pretty daunting. They even have a player sort of rotating over near the cities.
Yeah.
Try to like cut off the players that might come back.
A little bit of scouting, a Saladin Honda, which is a very interesting Grand
but
Prix.
You know what? For this situation, it's not bad, right? Because the blue marches are going to try to walk to that building, and if that Saladin can get its claws in on one of those marches,
yeah, get a little bit of slow down.
Yeah, but you know, 21YL is really not going back for this building. It doesn't look like. I mean, they just have nobody coming to this building, and I guess you're just going to rotate mid with those marches.
Potentially, yeah. And that's kind of something that we've seen, at least on my part, the Chinese server teams do really well, is they kind of just sit a murder ball right in front. They don't go for another rotation. We know that the Chinese server teams usually will kind of take that a little bit of a later rotation approach, and I think here, especially when you're fighting for first occupation points, it means a little bit more. But even in non-first occupation point scenarios, these teams do a very good job of sitting a murder ball in front of the structure and kind of putting up kind of that defensive hold, which is going to kind of force a second rally and swarm open field to kind of come down. And we're going to have to see here if 466W is going to be able to maintain that field presence, as they have lost, as they do try to actually retake their home desert altar. And then on the top side, it looks like things are pretty evened out. So I think a bulk of the action is going to be going on down here on this bottom side desert altar, as we're just under 5 minutes now for the first mid arc fight.
Yeah, 21YL is definitely heavily pressuring their sky altar, trying to deny the first capture. At the same time, Red Team has also captured the Shrine of War. There's less take back force there. So even though the sky altar was the first building that 466W captured, and they're trying to hold it here, they might be able to hold it. It's actually the Shrine of War that even looks more promising as far as the first capture. They might get both of these. This is pretty close here. Only about 20 seconds left on this building. The Eleanor holding up quite well at this point under the heavy pressure. There's still some 466W marches clearing field.
Nice.
You know, they haven't cleared this field yet. And a double C getting in at the last second here. That might be the difference.
Yep, absolutely. Pumping reinforcements in there with the 2 double Cs, and I think it's relatively full there, as they do take the first occupation points on that home sky altar. And then if you go up to that Shrine of War that you were talking about, Brian, also taking first occupation points away from 21YL on this bottom side, putting a lot of heavy pressure as mid rotations are now underway. Top side fight for the sky altar is ensuing. 21YL with the Heracles in the garrison, 466W trying to get this back, and I'm not sure if first occupation points have cashed in for this just yet.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm not sure either, actually. It's hard to tell. Although it looks like, based on the timer, maybe no.
Yeah, I think
Because like there's like a minute 20 left, and the bar is low, so maybe.
yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
We'll find out here shortly, but that would be a pretty huge swing. You're talking about 1, 2, that would be 3 altars in hand, and then a little bit of a kicker on that extra Shrine of War first occupation score. So very good job from 466W to kind of answer back there after getting wiped on this bottom side desert altar. But again, having that proper presence on the sky altar, and then that defense that we usually see from the Chinese server teams, as 466W is opting to just let this thing go. They just kind of walked away from that sky altar, and I think are going to let 21YL cash in the points. So a pretty much even split here for first occupation points, as 466W opts to give 21YL that altar, and I guess look for a better rotation for this first mid arc fight.
Yeah, I think it was an okay decision there. I mean, they've got two and a half minutes to go before the arc. That's going to be enough time for that city to send its marches to mid. You know, if they're waiting for that last player to get to mid, then 466Ws would have to be late to the middle. But they're actually taking the temple. 466W is taking the temple early here without vision. Neither team has vision mid yet. So a pretty aggressive play by 466W. They are playing with a good bit of aggression early on in the match. And they don't really have the numbers of the temple, but they took it anyway.
Yeah, just looking for that better position as we see 21YL popping that sneaky tactics. We'll have to see if 466W has a Desert Storm in response, or if we see the traditional split off from the sneaky tactics marches to try and avoid the Desert Storm, as 466W opts to go for the Dust Up.
Yeah, and we have to think about stocking up here right off the bat. So that was a pretty early sneaky tactics that they cast. They're not really doing anything with it. And so a reason they could have cast that early is because they want to use some skill points now, because they're going to trigger stocking up like right away on this first arc and try to get more than 10 points. We've already seen them bring in 300 in provisions. Yep. They're bringing in all their gatherers, partly for stocking up, partly to have those marches in the mid-fight. But we will see if they can get off more than 10 points of skills here for the mid-fight.
So if they did 300 points per provision, that would be 3 skill, or 400 now. That would be 3 skill points, 4 skill points.
I think it's. I don't think it's that much.
2.
It's like a percentage. Yeah, they might get 1 or 2 more points with that level of gathering.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, if it just to kind of like, if you're going to kind of go over and exceed that amount, then that's why we saw that little bit of an early sneaky tactics.
We actually see it on the skill bar. We saw it like flash. Their skill bar flashed. It's kind of interesting that we could see that. So I think that was a stocking up triggering there.
And then a Heaven's Grace from 466W, mirrored by 21YL. And we had on this mid arc fight here, sneaky tactics and dust up used by both teams, Heaven's Grace by both teams, and
identical skills so far. 9 points from both teams.
Arc has spawned. Let's see who gets the first pull on this. Looking somewhat even-ish, maybe, potentially.
Yeah, it looks very close. Very, very close here.
First pull is in favor of 21YL, but kind of an
wrong side.
Wrong side pull. A little unfortunate there, but he is kind of making his way. Okay, and it's dropped now. Let's get a little bit of a zoomed out view. It's still looking pretty dead even here, as both of these teams just kind of slugging out in middle, trying to get first occupation of this mid-arc fight. I think that both teams brought primarily most of their forces, as 466W gets the second pull on the arc, starting to run it back, and I think this mid is starting to look a little bit more red than blue at the moment here, Bri.
Yeah, looking really good for 466W here. I was curious to see if teams would send back to mid or try to focus on these buildings. Both teams are just sending back to mid. Like, wow. There's still nothing on the side. So both teams trying to send back. We see a ton of blue lines headed back to this this arc, but it has been won by 466W. Very big arc win here for 466W. and I think this one's over. I mean, I think maybe you have to stop sending if
Yeah.
you're 21YL.
I was just about to ask that, yeah, because you're going to have this contingent of troops now coming up who's, although they're a little bit weaker, they're going to start to pepper you down a little bit in terms of the health of the troops. I was just going to ask a question on what you would do here, and I think you're totally right on the call. I think you have to say, hey, let's forego this, retry at mid, and we have to go back to the building focus, because 21YL is already down on points by 1,700 points per minute, are dead even, and you have to consider now there's 3,000 points on the board for 466W unless 21YL
unless
has
they ambush it. They ambush it, and they're thinking ambush. They're definitely thinking ambush here on this top side. A lot of blue marches rotating down from their desert altar towards this arc carrier. They had vision that the sentry just wore off, and so now it's 466 that can see this ambush taking place. Not a huge escort at this moment. 21YL has more marches headed towards this arc than are escorting this arc, right? They can probably rip through this intercepting force here and get to this arc. So the arc is still in play here, though it's very far on the red team side, which is a huge advantage.
Would you go on a limb to say that this is almost a must-win ambush, because their desert altar is more than likely going to fall, I want to say, from this? Potentially, these marches are weak, so I think 466W, they do have the rally coming in, and I would like to see that maybe chunk down a little bit more. So maybe not a must win, but they are committing quite a good amount of resources here, whereas they could have been defending that desert altar. So we'll see if this move pays off for 21YL.
Yeah, I think they kind of gave up on the ambush, right? I mean, I think those marches that are defending the desert altar have told the story here that they're not really going to go for this ambush, because they had to have that second wave. If this ambush was going to work, that second wave was going to have to come in. But yeah, not a must win, but a good response by 466W to deal with this ambush. A great mid win for them, and they really have disrupted 21YL at this point, where like 21YL has such a set strategy that they want to do, where they play defense and win mids, but it's very disrupted now, because at worst, I mean, they're just down so many points. They're down like 4,700 points, plus a little bit of gathering, so they might be down 5K points at this juncture. And so it's very hard to just play defense and wait for the next mid if you're down that amount. Although 21YL might do it, right? I mean, it's still doable for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still a little early in this match. I mean, I think we're probably getting into the realm of, 2 to 3 arcs, and we see the provisioners coming back out for 21YL, and 466W has just been kind of doing great job at kind of putting on this this pressure, and I think it maybe starts with this bottom side here and capping that Shrine of War and kind of holding on to the Sky Altar, as you kind of keyed in on that this is going to be a key structure here within the match. So this is definitely going to be a structure that we are going to keep an eye on, as 466W is only a minute and a half, just under, on this thing starting to generate points for them yet again. And a true score right now of 12,000 to 7,000. So 21YL with a 5,000 point gap very early in this match. Really going to need to kind of focus in and start taking some of those steps to getting back into this match.
Yeah, both teams have been very good about getting somewhere in the range of 6,000 to 7,000 gathering points per match. There's not really an advantage that either team gets, although even actually, honestly, in some weeks 21YL has had very low gathering because they have to bring the marches in for stocking up. They don't have those like permanent gatherers out there. It's very hard to give 21YL more gathering points in this match. And so this phase of the match is very important for both teams, because if 21YL cannot make progress on this deficit in this phase of the game, then things get very, very tough for them, where, they have to win the second arc, but then they also want to make it a 3-arc game. I think we're going to see 466W hold this thing the whole time, because they're doing well enough on the sides that they can afford to hold it the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, just as you keyed in on very early, kind of calling it out that bottom side Sky Altar is going to be a key structure within this match, and you can just see that pressure just being constantly put on as it's now generating points for them yet again. And another good assault here from 466W on the Desert Altar of 21YL. Brian, I was thinking, I had the question, where do you think, was it on that mid arc fight, was it the macros, was it the, you know, the commanders, because both teams used the same skills? So and I think it was an all-in call from both teams. So does it come down to who's the better fighter in that first mid arc fight?
Yeah, I think it has to be who's the better fighter, and it's like really hard to tell why one team is a better fighting team than the other, because we saw a very even number of sad faces for the first half of that match, but then there were like a lot of red team marches that were still alive at the end. So you wonder if 21YL maybe didn't switch targets fast enough. They stayed hitting those very low health marches in order to sad face them, in order to make it look like it was an even fight. And so at the end, there were just still a lot of red marches still alive with, you know, moderate health. I mean, I think that's a lot of the fighting skill, Dan, but I'm sure there's other little micro optimizations that these players are making to be a quote unquote better fighter.
Yeah. And I just kind of want to, you made a really good point yesterday in the match against 93T and 489, just kind of keying in on the kills, and I can't remember which team it was, but I when you call that out, I was like, wow, that was really good like point and observation to make of which team is doing better in the field, and you can kind of get a gauge on that from the kills.
Yeah, definitely. You know, 93T won the ratio of that by about 15% yesterday. You know, they're very old school players, right? In 93T. 49, they're a little bit more, you know, they've brought in so many players over the years, you know, new accounts, old accounts type of thing. You just wonder if maybe they're a little bit less sharp in fighting, but at the same time, I mean, the fighting in this game is not that complicated, right? It's like,
yeah.
You know, you just have to like keep doing damage. You can't be like standing around or walking too far to a target. I mean, there's skill there. Like at the end of the day, there is skill there. It's not the most complicated thing in the world, but you do have to click the buttons, you know, better than your opponent and get an edge that way.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes down to that aspect of composure too, right? So I think maybe even like on that first mid arc fight that we just saw with 21YL and 466W, just, you know, even if it sometimes these fights and these like little mini battles can be a little bit more prolonged than you would like, and you kind of get thinking in your head, man, I thought this fight was going to be over already, and you're kind of somewhat checking out in a way. But yeah, there's so much that goes into these fights, and I just got to give props all around for all these teams and doing such a great job and kind of putting on all these shows for us so far.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, as this arc gets held, the bottom side of the map is turning quite blue. They've taken the Shrine of Life from 466, and they are pressuring this Desert Altar. They have a numbers advantage at this building right now. You know, this one is tough. It's tough to get an attack like this to work when you don't have a really big numbers advantage, but the rally is coming in on this building. And it is a full rally. It is a full rally here hitting this Eleanor garrison.
Yeah, it's exactly what you want. And we're going to look to see if they can get this thing down and hopefully have a garrison inside as 466W does take back that Shrine of Life, as you just keyed in on. And yeah, this is really kind of turning into now a slower pace match. This is kind of...
They're chunking it down. They're chunking down this Eleanor like really fast now.
And we'll see if they have the proper garrison to get a nice hold on it. So far, just a whole cute being, which is not ideally what you want to see. Come on, 21YL. There's the Eleanor swap.
Wow. Okay. So they had an Eleanor. That Eleanor must have been in the field, right? Because it was an infantry rally. So I was kind of expecting to see a Gorgo, but they get the Eleanor in there. She must have been in the field. Pretty interesting. Pretty good play by 21YL there, actually.
Yeah.
To have that Eleanor even around.
Sneak her in, and then you can see the kind of traditional stance here as 21OL now kind of preparing a little bit of a murder ball, trying to get ready for this defense here, as they want to definitely look to hold this desert altar, and the sky altar may be under a little bit of pressure here too, as it is blinking, as I can't figure out how to go. There we go. 21 sky altar under a little bit of duress here, but it looks like that defense is going to hold as well. So 21YL starting to take the steps that they need to get back into this match. It is exactly what you want to see, as they now control 3 altars, denying points on one of them, 2 generating for them, and then another battle on top for this sky altar. So 21YL kind of waking up a little bit and saying, hey, we need to put this pressure on, we need to start winning this building structure, and they're starting to do exactly that.
Yeah, very good response here from 21YL. This is not something we've seen from them much in this arc, in this Grand Prix, is an offense in the structure game. That being said, this is a team that has practiced quite a bit. They have practiced the second most of any team. So certainly they have plenty of practice taking buildings, right? Like they're not just doing the same strategy over and over again in their practice matches, and like they're not dominating every practice match where all they have to do is play D. Obviously they've practiced taking structures, and yeah, you know, props to them for doing it. There's a reason they're one of the top Chinese teams. Yeah. And you know, it just opens up the rest of the match, right? Where maybe it's going to be a 3-arc match. Maybe 466W has to feel like they want to return this thing before the deadline. A lot of decisions have to get made in these Grand Prix matches.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do not envy these planners and shot callers whatsoever, as we get the 21YL rally hitting on the sky altar a little late. Swarmers are able to kind of do that job, and now 3 altars still in hand for 21YL, as that bottom side desert altar did flip back to control for 466W, and kind of a little bit of a slower pace match than what we were watching from 466W. So those players on that side of 466W probably taking a nice little bit of a breather and kind of enjoying this little bit more of a kind of chilled out match, if there's ever such thing in Osiris League play. But yesterday the chaos that we saw against 748W, just kind of a little bit of a slower tempo now. 2.5 minutes until the arc has to get cash, and 21OL is doing a really nice job of starting to creep their way back into this match. And as I say that, I cast a curse hit as their home desert altar falls to 466W.
Yep, good attack by 466W. They actually, like you said, they were planning that attack for quite a while. They had gathered up in a very big ball and waited a while to make that attack happen. I think because I was muted at the beginning of the stream, people might have missed that. If you win the match today, if you win the match right here, you will finish in the top 4 of the Grand Prix. That means you're going to win more prizes. You're going to win $200 more of Flux scripts than the team that loses this match. This is a money game that these two teams are playing right now. And I think that's one of the reasons that it has been more, chill, as you said, because they're just playing more seriously. Like, this is the money game of the weekend. And so both teams are trying to be very organized, be very sharp in their attacks and in their defenses. And we're seeing openings, we're seeing some buildings get flipped. It's dynamic enough where a team can have an edge in this mid phase, or this side focused phase. But so far both teams have sort of flipped each other's buildings the same amount, and so the lead is still about 4,500 points. I guess 21YL has gained a little bit of ground. They've gained a tiny bit of ground here.
Yeah, that occupation score is still kind of sitting in favor for 466W. I think we can attribute a lot of that to that bottom side pressure that they're putting onto that sky altar. Then obviously we can't go without saying that first Shrine of War capture from them. Brian, I was thinking, as 466W just cashes this arc with about a minute or so left, and there's the stocking up. I was just going to ask this question. Does the hold on the arc that has to affect the play of stocking up in some shape or manner? And 21YL kind of answers the question a little bit there, but I did want to ask: do you feel that the holding of the arc kind of disrupts that stocking up strategy a little bit?
Not really. When you hold the arc, it means that your own team is going to have 10 points for the mid.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole point of stocking up is to have more than 10 points mid. So I don't think it really disrupts it, actually. It changes when you would use it, right? You're not using it because you don't know when they're going to return it. Like, they could, if they had held the arc, they could have cast stocking up like 90 seconds earlier because they knew they were going to return the arc. And that means you're going to get full value for the stocking up. But in this case, they're only going to get 8 minutes of value for the stocking up because they had to wait for that arc to get returned before they actually cast it. That's the only thing it really disrupts.
Okay, makes sense. And we kind of saw that with 21 while arc was cashing, like, hey, let's go, stocking up, it's time to use it. So okay, it's still a skill too that we're like, you know, we started to see it in the international server Osiris League playoffs. We saw 60 GT kind of like culminate that in the first time usage, and we were like, oh my gosh, you can get more than 10 skill points. So it's still a relatively new skill to me that I'm really trying to dissect and just trying to like fully understand, because we've kind of seen it used in quite a few matches now, and the timings of it seem to be a little bit different, as 21 While is able to retake their home desert altar, but then kind of walks away from it and doesn't get a proper garrison in there, and 466W kind of just takes this thing back. A little bit of an uncharacteristic play there of a top team.
Yeah, the other thing that I find interesting is that they have not used energetic. They used stocking up, but they have not used energetic for 20 minutes now. I'm not sure why you would not use energetic here, because the whole point of stocking up is to get more skill points. I guess it's because they have enough. They're going to have 10 points anyway. Like, they don't need that extra boost to get to the 10 points is, I guess, the reason.
Yeah, potential.
But you do get a burst of skill points once you use a skill and energetic is active. So maybe they're just waiting to use energetic like closer to the mid.
Yeah, and as you kind of keyed in on before earlier in the match, anytime you see on the skill bar kind of blink over here, chat, that is a little bit of a call out to those provisions kind of being cached, and you can see a little bit of a pulse on that skill bar. 21 While potentially sitting with a full set here as it blinks yet again.
Well, they did cast they just cast energetic.
Okay, there we go.
So yeah, they had to wait. They're waiting a little bit closer to the mid so that will boost their mid skills more. I mean, I think they're like pretty well positioned to get more than 10 points for this arc.
Yes.
So they probably have like To the Death as their last skill. And I think we're going to see a very heavy rotation from 21 YL to this mid. Now the question is, does 466W do a heavy rotate mid, or do they do a side play and sort of counter the stocking up that way? I think that would be a pretty interesting call here with the size of the lead that they have.
Yeah, I think it's definitely in play that these guys can maybe just send a small contingent, maybe enough to just do a sneaky tactics to semi-disrupt and kind of negate the effects of that potential, full skill bar coming into use, and also kind of, what's the best way to counter To the Death? Just don't show up. Don't let them use it. And we saw that from 732A pull that on 60 GT in week 1. And I think that kind of opened the eyes to a bunch of people, although the Chinese server teams probably know this. But you can just completely avoid it To the Death if you don't allow the other enemy team to use it. And I think you're totally right on that call, is that we could potentially see 466W sack this mid arc fight with the lead that they have.
Yeah, 21 YL, more than the other Chinese teams, they are just an all-in mid type of team. They don't do a lot of side stuff while they are going for the mid. And that's something that you can counter. You can make a read on that and be like, okay, we know that they're not going to do this like precise distribution of marches where they're going to, have some defense on the side. 466 can make that read and be like, you know what? We actually can just sack this mid. We can take their buildings, and they're not going to be that effective in countering it. Obviously, 21 Whale can adjust at any point, but at this point, we are seeing a very, very heavy rotation from mid from blue and a much, much lighter rotation from red.
Yeah, I think it was the perfect call that you made there, and kind of getting a little bit nervous for 21 Wild here, and I think to your point that you just mentioned, they do have enough time to react. So I think that they kind of made this decision here on this bottom side on the Sky Alta that's been kind of pestering them this entire match to maybe to send a little bit of a force down here to further secure that. And then I think you're kind of seeing that.
I think it's all in mid. I think both teams are all in mid though. You know, everybody from 466 is headed to mid at this point. They were maybe thinking about a side play, but they have gone for the mid as well.
And then a small bit of troops here, maybe looking to wrap around a play on the altar potentially.
I mean, it's not a lot though, right? It's like it's like the top side. The top side kind of. So this is something we saw from 93T a couple weeks ago, also, where like one side of the map did one thing, but the other side had a different perspective. The top side wants to do a side play, but the bottom side is going all in mid, and that doesn't work that well, Dan. I mean. That means you're sending a lot of troops mid to do very, very little, right? Mm-hmm. So,
yeah,
actually, it looks like they're changing again. They've rotated again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
maybe
they're going through the same machinations that we're going through here.
Yeah, so some miscommunications or a little bit of even, you know, just kind of maybe overthinking. But I think now we're kind of finally seeing that as also, 21YL opting for this, and do they have a sentry? It's very curious to me how they're kind of keying in on it.
It got removed, right? The blue sentry was there, seeing the red ball, but it did get removed.
Okay.
But 21 Whale, it seems like 21 Whale has somewhat sniffed this out. They have some marches leaving mid. Not a lot, though. Like, very few marches leaving mid for 21 Whale.
Yeah, as they kind of rotate back onto that topside desert altar, definitely sniffing out that play as Brian is keying in on. Good analysis and predictions here. And 466W with a really nice presence here on that desert altar, just under a minute until arc spawns. Sneaky tactics was used by 21YL, so they have some troops in the mid that are cloaked there. That garrison is getting chunked down. I'm going to go back into mid to see what's going on over here as these guys are kind of dancing around each other. 30 seconds until arc spawns. Teams are now starting to engage. 21YL with a positioning advantage, popping Heaven's Grace. 466W mirroring in response with their own Heaven's Grace. And there's a lot of blue here. I think 21YL probably did have a little bit slight number advantage here as they're going to look to clear this thing out in this very important second arc.
Yeah, 9 skill points cast by 21YL. They probably have quite a bit of skill points left. The more relevant thing here is that 466W did cast 6 points of skills there to have, while having no chance of winning this mid. Those skills are going to be more useful on the sides where they are taking buildings. Mm-hmm. But 21YL at this point has got this second arc. This is going to make this a very, very close match. It's going to be like a 1,000 point lead maybe for 466, although they are going to get some points from the sides as well. So I think 21YL is going to be probably trying to return this instantly.
Yeah.
And get a third arc, because also they've lost all their outposts.
Oh man, yes.
466 has taken all of their outposts, and so they got more value for that side play than we thought at first. They've taken an altar, and they've taken 2 altars and all the outposts.
And the all outposts too. Again, just a pretty big differential on points. And again, even if they're not generating points for you, you're still kind of denying that, as 21YL is now rushing to try and take some of these buildings back. And I think you're right. They're up on the skill point usage right now. Or they should be up at least. And yeah, they're probably going to look to cash this thing and go into a third mid arc, as they're going to try and counteract the building prowess of 466W, who has also now made the gathering call. As we can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 gatherers out. So almost 2 players worth of gathering now starting to go on for 466W. Points per minute heavily in favor, 720 points per minute to 21YL's 120 points per minute. provisions have no provisions has come in yet for 466W, so I would expect here we're probably going to see around a 3,000 point bump there at the minimum. That's going to be on the final tally for 466W as they continue this defense, this advanced defense on the Desert Altar, and look to hold this from 21YL just a little bit more.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a fast capture by the blue team, which is nice. It'll make the math a little bit easier for us as we get to the, the final 20 minutes of the match. With the occupation work that the 466 is doing, plus the gathering that they have in the bag, I think they're going to have a decent points lead here. But I also think that the win condition for 21YL is going to be this third arc. If they can win the third arc, I think they will probably have enough points to win the match. I'm surprised they have not returned this already. I wonder what they're waiting for. I just think you have to, right? Like, yeah. I just think you have to.
I'm very curious because, as you alluded to, they're up in skill points right now, or at least they should have that in the back of their mind. You know that they're the the economic skill point team. You got to play to your strengths here, and this Belisarius is just kind of sitting and waiting for God knows what, as 21YL is desperately trying to get back this Desert Altar, and this is one of those steps that they need to take, and all 4 altars now in hand for 466W, 3 of them of which generating points, and this match is starting to get a little bit out of control on the structure game. 21YL has to key in on this very quickly, or this match is going to start to slip away from them, even with having Arc in hand.
Yeah, I think when they return the arc, they're still going to be down about 2,000 points. If you add gathering to that, they're down, 3,000 plus points here. So 466W, they want to just continue dominating this occupation game just to make life easier and more relaxed for them, where they could potentially lose the third arc, maybe do the same thing and sack the third arc and still win. Like, we're getting into that territory now. We're getting into sort of that 93T type territory where they give themselves multiple ways to win. Maybe they can win the last mid fight, or they can win without the last mid fight. We're getting into that territory now because, yeah, this Sky Altar on the bottom side has been generating points for so long. The Desert Altar on the top side has been flipped, many times in this match. So, yeah, I mean, but it's still very close. At the end of the day, it's still very close, and I think they still have time, right? They can. I think they're holding the arc because they have plenty of time. If they were to return it now, they would still have 9 minutes to return the third arc, and that's plenty of time. So they're just waiting for a good timing, probably to get their buildings back. The only issue is when they hold the arc. When they hold the arc, they allow 466 to regenerate their skill bar. Yeah. So it's like a guarantee that 466 will have 10 points for this third mid. And worth noting that they've been using stocking up, they've been returning gatherers, but they have not gotten any value from stocking up at this point in the match. They've not cast more than 10 points in any of the mid fights so far. Yeah, and that's very similar to what I saw last week in the match at GY16, which made me kind of question again, just like the timings have to be so particular when using stocking up, and I saw exactly that last week against GY16. I just don't think that they got the maximum value from using stocking up, and it kind of makes you think, like, could you have put in on I don't know, Total Vision? No one's used Total Vision, and who knows, we've seen War Drums used more than Total Vision in this Grand Prix, but use any other skill besides the stocking up, and it really kind of asks the question, like, is it worth it? There just seems so much that goes into a proper stocking up play, in 2 weeks in a row. I haven't seen 21YL execute it well enough to give them the advantage. Yeah, they've used it well in matches where they have a huge lead and they're just dominating the other team, but now for the second week in a row in a very close match, they have not been able to get value for the stocking up. And it also just takes so much bandwidth, right? It takes bandwidth on the voice chat to coordinate all that stuff. It takes bandwidth for the shot caller to use the skills correctly. There the arc gets returned. Okay. So we will have a 3 arc game, 8 minutes to go before the next arc. Whoever takes the final arc will have 7 minutes to return it. That's plenty of time. And it's a 3,500 point lead plus gathering. So we got to give this maybe like a a 4,500 point lead at this point for 466W.
Minimum at least. Yeah, this is quite the uphill battle right now for 21YL. We're gonna see if they need to right now. They need to start getting some of these structures right. They can't just afford to hold structure. I think they're gonna have to get a flip on an altar or two, and at least kind of deny that point generation for 466W. Any keys to coming back and taking this thing home for 21YL, Bri?
I mean, I think you nailed it there. It's just getting tougher the more we think about it and the more we look at this score because, okay, yeah, they do have to flip some of these buildings. I mean, they have not had much success flipping buildings. They really have not flipped much during this match. And then with the next arc, they can't go all in on the arc. They have to win the next arc without going all in on it because they have to at least hold their buildings, at least hold the buildings. But you almost think they have to take the next arc and flip a building somewhere along the way. We've got 6.5 minutes. Maybe they flip buildings before the arc and then get to mid. But this is going to have to be a perfect rotation from 21YL to have a chance to win this thing. They did cast stocking up again, so maybe they can make a big stocking up play happen here with extra points.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, and we're going to have to see if they can finally get some value out of stocking up. Third time used in the match so far. And yes, it has to be all in. They have to win the arc fight, but they have to do so in a way that doesn't expose them on the buildings, as we've seen many a times before, where teams will just opt to not send in. We kind of saw it on the last rotation as well. 21YL kind of keying in on that, and they were able to win that. So if 466W does decide to maybe do something similar, 21YL does have the wherewithal to kind of be able to counteract that. And we are seeing a little bit of a nice offensive here from 21YL as they rotate from their home desert altar. Rally is on the way. You can see some troops ready here.
They're getting ripped to shreds, though. They're getting ripped to shreds as they rotate here.
Getting snuffed out. Some of them making it through were just the small little double C's and quick marches. But yeah, they're going to need a little bit more to take on this sky altar here, as they desperately are looking for a building flip to start them on this way back to victory.
Yeah, I think desperation is the operative word for this attack right here. Those marches just ran through the enemy. And okay, they did get through the enemy, but they're all very low health now. We're seeing a bunch of, red health Hermans now headed to this sky altar to swarm it. And that is just not going to work at all. This is going to get rejected post haste by 466. At the same time, 466 has flipped one of the outposts already. They have a player swarming another outpost with 2 marches. So 466 is already putting in some of that work to, get value even if they lose this third mid. They're getting an early start on that. And, it's actually, things are starting to look worse for 21YL, not better. And they just had to be so perfect at these final 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's extremely hard to fall behind in Ark of Osiris, and I've kind of touched on it a little bit, and maybe we'll see that with the new format. And who knows if a tournament style kind of comes out of the shortened length Ark matches that are going to be coming to us soon potentially. But I would like to see, in a way, something that doesn't force the openings to be so perfect, right? Because we're seeing it here to the T. Like, if you fall behind short in those early moments of the match, like it's so hard to come back from. And we've only seen a handful of teams really kind of recompose themselves and kind of claw back into a match. So it's just one of those things that I would like to see maybe tweaked slightly to allow for teams to kind of get back into this, because more times than not, I've watched Arc matches, and within the first 20 to 30 minutes, you know that it's already over.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of agree with you, sort of disagree. I mean, to me, this has been a very close match the whole way. Like, it's been hard to determine who is going to win. And I think ultimately, like, 466 has just outplayed 21YL. I mean, they're winning the occupation game by 6,000 points. They're winning the kill point ratio by more than 10%. So, I mean, they've just... It's not that they won the first arc, really. I don't think the first arc is what won this match for them. I think it's or is winning this match for them. I think it's the occupation dominance. I think they have won the occupation game by so much that it has given them options in this match that 21YL simply does not have. Although in this case, the option that they are exercising is to go incredibly heavy mid.
Yeah.
Like, this is very clear. This is very, very clear that both teams are going very heavy mid. Interesting choice by 466 here. Maybe they feel like they have less of a gathering lead than we're giving them, which is possible. But but I mean, it's a 6,000 point lead, Dan. So it doesn't even matter if we're misestimating the gathering. They could just let this arc go and win by taking a few buildings. Yeah. So very interesting that they're going full mid here.
Full mid call, and then I think just kind of keying in on what you mentioned, that 21YL was their strong suit is playing defense, right? And 466W took away a key component from them almost off the jump by the harassment that we saw on this bottom side desert altar. So 466W really just kind of taking away one of those key things that 21YL was supposed to be really good at, and just making life difficult for them for this entire hour, as we see sneaky tactics being used from 21YL and dust up being used.
Yeah, 5 points already from 21YL. The issue for 466 here is that this does play into 21YL's wheelhouse, where I think they're going to be able to use stocking up here. They're going to cast a bunch of skills. They probably have maybe To the Death plus Heaven's Grace available here. So it's going to be more than 10 points of skills here for 21YL. And, they're feeling pretty confident. Even though they might not have the numbers advantage here, they're moving in early here. They are feeling very confident on the blue side.
Yeah, as we got 1 minute until this arc is going to spawn. And we finally see there's the To the Death as the murder balls engage. To the Death mirrored on both sides. Let us see who is going to take this thing home. 466W secures this arc. It is all but GG's for 21YL, and their Grand Prix hopes are over. Huge sad face train going for both teams here, looking pretty even split on the zoomed out view.
11 points cast for 21YL. Not a huge advantage there, but a bit of extra value. And another close mid fight. It looks a little bit red. That big sad face train there for blue. Big sad face train.
Yeah, and I just I don't know if the stocking up has been used in the most efficient way for 21YL in these past few weeks, when they're kind of up against teams that are a little bit, more fine-tuned, and we're seeing it exactly here, where they're not getting that extra value out of the stocking up. Like you would think going up and having a little bit more skill points that they get some kind of advantage, but 466W wins this mid arc fight handily. There's no master strategist on the board for 21YL. As long as they can escort this thing safely to their cities, this thing is all but wrapped up.
Are we gonna see a 466 Sunday in the Grand Prix? 466W is the younger brother team of 466S. Their older brother is going to be playing against 93T in the next match. I would say 466S is a slight favorite in that game. We could potentially see two teams from the same kingdom winning the two matches today and advancing to the final four of the Osiris League. I say that assuming that 466 is going to win this match here, because they are just in full control. They have a very big lead, and they have the arc. So this one, I think, is all but over.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see too, right? If we just kind of start throwing out some hypotheticals now, like 466S wins against 93T, and now they have to go and face their sister team to potentially knock them out if that comes to fruition. But chat, be sure to stay tuned today on the official Rise of Kingdoms channel. I believe Plato and Redline are going live 14ish UTC, I believe, or is it right after this match?
Yep. Yeah. It's going to be right after this match.
Right after this match, you'll get a really nice showdown, Plato and Redline on that. Be sure to subscribe to the official Rise of Kingdoms channel. Hit that like button. Consider subscribing. No, actually, don't consider. You should subscribe to our channels, especially Brian's, because he's been up since 5 a.m. To get ready for this cast for y'all. So hit that subscribe button. Our links are in the bio down below. And this thing is definitely out of reach now, as 466W is probably going to look to do a little bit of a victory lap. And I had this notion going into this match where 21YL was probably the more sound team on paper, but I think the momentum that 466W is coming off on that win from 748W yesterday is something that just carried them over. And I was thinking in my head a little bit yesterday as I was casting that potentially there's going to be a little bit of maybe fatigue in a match that was so kind of chaotic, but 466W really looking in prime form right now, and the scoreboard is all but telling on that.
Yeah, really interesting. You wonder if they got a really good scouting report on 21YL. 466W really did not practice too much during this Grand Prix. Their older brother team did practice a lot. You wonder if they got a good scouting report. They were incredibly effective on the sides, and I think you almost don't need a scouting report though for what they did, because they dominated the sides and they won 2 out of 3 arcs. And the way you really counter a team like 21YL is you take some of those arcs, right? A team that focuses on winning mid, if you can win a few of those arcs, that totally disrupts the points that they expect to have at the end of the match. So it's hard for me to say that 466 like sort of out strategized 21YL. It just seems like they fought well. They got good value for all their skills, and they won 2 out of 3 mids. The game is not always that complicated, although certainly sometimes a lot of tough decisions get made.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that will key on in these last 2 losses for 21YL is the stocking up. I think it has to be attributed in some way, shape, or form to the stocking up plays, proving unsuccessful against GY16 and now also proving unsuccessful against 466W. So 21YL going to have to go in and reevaluate, as they'll potentially go in and get ready for the next round of Osiris Leagues, and kind of fine tune that skill usage there to maybe just optimize that a little bit. Because I think 1 week you can kind of say, okay, you can kind of get a pass on it, but seeing it 2 weeks in a row where you're not really getting that optimized value, you kind of have to go back to the drawing tables and kind of rework that strategy a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. They got 11 points on the last arc, so it's like a little bit of extra value, but at the same time, if they didn't have stocking up on the bar, they could have used had different skills. I mean, it worked a little bit because there's no other way to use sneaky tactics, dust up, into the death. Like, you can't. There's no other skills you could have used instead there. So I see there's value to it. It's almost, to me, it's the bandwidth issue more than the actual like number of skill points, where it's like, for whatever reason, 21YL just did some things suboptimally. I mean, their building game really struggled. Like, they just could not muster any attacks against the younger brother team, and then losing 2 out of 3 mids fairly convincingly. That's also I don't know, it's almost like 21YL kind of hit their ceiling. They hit the ceiling of their player skill here. They're a very old kingdom, so they've been around for a long time, but players can't just sort of reach the limit of what they're capable of, and maybe they just fought against some players who click the buttons a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree. And there's so much that goes into these matches, and we can kind of speculate and whatnot, but gotta commend 21YL on a very valiant run here, and a congrats to 466W as they win. They won a chaotic match yesterday, and then just roll that momentum into today, and just kind of show their dominance as they are going to get primed up for week 6 next week, and they are going to be sitting, as you said, Brian, final 4, correct, right?
Yeah, Final Four. Imagine if they make it to the Final Four and 466S doesn't. That would be very interesting. That would sort of
That would be a yeah.
that would cause some major drama for the team next season, right? Like
Yeah.
how many players get poached from the younger brother team for the older brother team next season?
Yeah.
If that were to happen.
It is definitely going to be one to look out for as we're going to be winding this match down. 93T and 466S coming up next, and 93T, the only international server alive in these Grand Prix. Can they continue the run and represent for the international servers here? GG's to 466W with a final score of 43,000 to 32,000. You can see that pure dominance here on the occupation all across the board here, even pulling in more provisions than 21YL, a team that prides himself on a gathering prowess from using that stocking up skill. Brian, any closing thoughts on this match?
Well, very unexpected result. A lot of things went different than the script that we laid out. We thought both teams would get 6,000 plus gathering points. Neither team reached that mark. Very strong occupation dominance by 466W, and yeah, just a very good performance by them.
Yeah, and there you have it. We will catch you guys on the next one. Be sure to subscribe to the Rise of Kingdoms official channel, and mine and Brian's links are in the description down below. Be sure to subscribe to those. We will catch you guys on the next one. Be sure to tune into 93T and 466S starting now with Plato and Redline. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Love y'all. Peace.